That's when we get into our first qualifying match where it was AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. And I was surprised that they put these two together in a match because I thought AJ was going to have I thought he was going to be in this match, like in the
Yeah.
Elimination Chamber match.
Very
Uh,
interesting why they didn't have him in. I'm very intrigued what we're doing with AJ
yeah.
Styles.
And I think
This one, yeah.
that's why I think who ends up in the Elimination Chamber is probably going to give us more of an idea of the direction they're going in. So that's why I was saying, like, you said, okay, well, if LA Knight wins and he's in the Elimination Chamber, maybe AJ does something to take away his moment. Um, and LA Knight was on commentary for this match. They definitely played up the fact that they hate each other, so they're not abandoning that, which is good. But then you also are like, okay, well, rumors about Logan versus LA Knight. So if Logan's in the Elimination Chamber with LA Knight, they can do something and then that can get started. Maybe it's a triple threat, I don't know. But I said this on Twitter and maybe I'll ask your opinion. We've kind of briefly talked about it, but I feel like I would be I I'm kind of torn, but I feel like I would kind of be more on board with LA Knight versus AJ Styles at Mania than LA Knight versus Logan Paul at Mania.
Interesting. I'm why?
And it's surprising, right? Because it's like I don't want LA Knight to be United States champion necessarily because it's not like a prized title right now, and so it's like it would be
Okay.
great for him to have a championship even if it isn't one that I necessarily want, but I just like the idea of his first Mania being against a legend like AJ Styles. Like, to me, and there's more story there because it's like they were both involved in these matches against Roman Reigns and now they're both completely removed from it, that it would be kind of cool to then see them finally go at it and for that to be LA Knight's first Mania match. Like, that seems sick to me. Like, more so than it being Logan Paul, you know.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I would be very satisfied with that. My only counterpoint would be that Logan Paul being we'll say, bridge, throwing a felon here, he's a bridge champion. And we've said it on here multiple upon multiple times that the US title feels stale, especially
Yeah.
compared to the Intercontinental title with Gunther.
King.
Like, I mean, just a night and day. So because of that, you need a way to get the US title elevated. Well, there wouldn't be a better way to elevate it than putting it on a guy like LA Knight. And if he has a match with Logan Paul, we know what Logan Paul can do in the ring. It's not going to just be a dud of a match. And you get right after Mania, it's like, well, who's going to challenge LA Knight for the championship first after a rematch and all that nonsense? Well, you got AJ Styles as your first challenger. Now you have AJ Styles versus LA Knight for the US title. It gives a bigger feel to the US title than it's like Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley. You
Yeah.
don't care about that, even if it is for a title. You're just like, okay, cool. They're fighting over the US title again. Of course they are. But
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, the LA Knight's US champion. All right, sweet. Or AJ Styles wins the US championship. Oh man, like, it gives a bigger feel to it, which is definitely something that's been lacking with the US title.
Well, and I mean, I'm a big LA Knight fan, so it's like if it did end up being Logan Paul, it's like an easy way to get heat on Logan and then just
Mm.
like completely take advantage and get more love for LA Knight, and his first match being a title match that he walks out the victor. Like, I'm not going to complain about that necessarily. I mean, I don't love it. I wish that it was the Intercontinental or something instead of the
Mm.
US title. But I think that they could have a pretty iconic feud. So I'm not 100% on board with it, and I've said that multiple times that I understand why LA Knight fans, like big LA Knight fans, don't love the idea of him going from being in contention for the WWE championship to then becoming like US champion. I understand why that's not an ideal situation, but if I'm trying to think about it from the perspective of, okay, this is his first Mania match. He wasn't even on the card last year.
Right.
They just shot to him in the audience. You know what I mean? It's like, this
Mhm,
is quite a jump from that, in the fact
mhm.
that he would be going from not being on the card to being put on the card in a title match against Logan Paul, who they're all like, he's the biggest star, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's a pretty big deal, even if it isn't what we all necessarily wanted to see, if that makes sense.